Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about, today is July 2023, and we have our free monthly class, and it is going to be about 5 things to consider before leaving your landlord. And my name is Rose Cabral, and I'm so glad you're here. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen over here. Okay. All right. Can you see that? Yes. Okay, thanks. Okay. So you belong here, especially if you are a single woman, an artist, creative, a social justice champion. Maybe you're a renter, most likely you're a renter if you're at this class, or you know renters and you want to help them out. Maybe you're living with parents, you have roommates, you're part of the queer trans community, divorced, widowed. Maybe you're a millennial or you're an elder millennial like me, or you're a Gen Z. So welcome. And you might be asking yourself some questions. So some things that might be in your head, and feel free to put in the chat if you have other questions that you are thinking of. But why did I rent for so long? What do I do if I have a lease? How long will it take to actually find a house? Maybe you're asking if you can actually become a homeowner. I know that a lot of people don't even know the answer to that. Maybe you're asking, should I own my house or rent? And maybe you're asking what your timeline should be. So if you're asking any of those questions, you are also in the right place, and I will try to answer them for you today. And yeah, okay, let's see. So the purpose of our class today, 5 things to consider before leaving your landlord. Oh, and let's see, we have a question in the chat to add. How do I build my credit, and what's the best way to save up a down payment for a house? Yes, great question. I will add those and we'll get to those as well. Thank you. So the purpose of our class today is to reflect on your rental journey, and also to get to know the market so you know exactly what's happening. And now I'm in Sacramento, California, but I'll talk kind of more generally about the real estate market and what it does across the country. And it's really good also to get to know what's happening in your local market. And so I have tools that you can use to try to find that out as well. And we will create a path forward. So whether you go through this reflection and you decide that you want to keep renting, or if you decide that you want to try and look at owning a home, we're gonna help create a path forward for you. And I will also have a way that you can work with me further in the future that I will be sharing towards the end as well. Okay, so why all of this might matter to you. Maybe you have been paying the rent for years and the property owner keeps raising it. And I use property owner because I don't really like the term landlord, because lord doesn't sound great in my head. So when you hear me say property owner, that's what I mean. This also might matter to you because you're ready to have a space of your very own where you can rest and relax and recharge. Maybe you feel ready to buy a house, but you are not exactly sure where to start. And so I want you to imagine, we're going to do like a little imagine visualizing. Imagine if you were able to stop worrying about the rent, or the rent in general, but also stop worrying about your property owner raising the rent on you, because you own your own house. And so you don't have to worry about getting a notification that says, guess what? Your rent is going up, or guess what? You have to move because I'm selling the house. So what would that feel like? Imagine if you had a home of your very own where you could paint the walls, have a dog or a cat or chickens or whatever animal you would like, and plant trees in the ground. What would that feel like? And so I want to take just a moment you can share in the chat, why is becoming a homeowner important to you right now? And being a homeowner, like, why are you even thinking about leaving your landlord and becoming a homeowner? Maybe it's any of the reasons we just talked about, or to build an asset. Yes, that's a great one. So that you have something that is growing over time, and maybe you want to build equity and pull from that equity to do other things. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Leave a property to my child. Yes, that's an awesome thing to think about as well. Like, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? What kind of generational wealth are you going to leave to your child or your family? Thinking about that is awesome. Okay, so who am I and why am I talking to you? So my name is Rose, and I grew up in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley, which is about 100 miles from Sacramento, where I am now. And I bought my own house when I was 23. And I had no idea what I was doing, but that was my only goal in life, and I did it. So I have a cat. That's my 20-year-old cat there, right here. And my chicken. And this is me hiking up Mount Diablo, which is the tallest mountain in our valley, in the Silicon Valley. And I also am an advocate for our unhoused neighbors. And I'm on the board of the Sacramento Community Land Trust. That's a little bit about me. And then my real estate life. So I became a real estate agent in 2011. This was my really awesome first photo here that I took. This is my updated one, my brand new updated branding photo, which is so fun. I think it was really fun to take all those photos. But also I'm involved in my community with our realtors. We volunteer at Loaves and Fishes, which is a place in the community that helps with food and showers and even schooling for our unhoused children. And I love giving my clients the keys. So I have a little picture of me holding keys there. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get back to the reason you came here. These are some of my amazing clients. I like to show these just because they're very inspirational. Like, I would love to have you see yourself holding that sold sign or getting your own keys. And my goal is to demystify real estate so you can become a homeowner. And we're going to talk today about renting versus owning. So if you decide you don't want to become a homeowner right now, that's totally fine. But I want to make sure that you have all the information so that you can make that decision that is best for you. Okay. And also, just so you know, so you can hear from somebody else, this is one of my clients, Alicia. And she wrote, I almost just kept on renting, but then I found Rose and she explained every step of the process and even helped me change the lots. Rose is phenomenal, literally the best of the best. Rose's communication style, and she is very understanding. So other people think that I'm pretty cool. So okay, but back to what we came here to talk about today. We're going to talk today about 5 things to consider before leaving your landlord, and then we'll talk about next steps. So you have kind of like some things to work on after we're done today. All right. So things to consider before breaking up with your landlord. That's another way to say it, right? It's like a relationship. You're deciding, yes, landlord, we don't need to be together anymore. All right. So before we jump into the 5 steps, I just want to take another moment to dream, because for a lot of my clients, and a lot of people who are renting, it's very hard to even imagine not renting anymore. And so whether you want to live in Barbie's dream mansion, or you want to live in the Playmobil house. When I was a kid, that was like my dream. But wherever you want to live, it's thinking about, what does it look like? Is it a giant house? Is it a cottage? Is it a yurt? Is it like a condo? What does it look like? Where is it? How does it feel? Where is it located? Is it near shops and restaurants? Is it near a park? Is it near a pool? Does it have a pool? Just thinking about like your vision of your dream spot. And here's just some more random houses that I found. Actually, I had the Fisher Price one when I was younger. It was like my prized possession. And I still have it, and it's still in great condition because I had to take care of all of my things. So just visualizing, like, what does this dream look like for you? And maybe your parents or your family or your friends have a vision for you, but like, I think it's really important to think about your vision and what's important to you, because maybe they're not going to live with you, especially if they're not living with you. Like, they don't need to have a big say in where you're going to live or what it looks like. If they are going to live with you, I would say they can put their vision first. You can do your vision, and then you can come together and see, like, where do we overlap on our vision? Okay, so that'll be a little bit of homework for you for later, to like visualize and kind of really take some time and journal, or just take some time and think about what the place what does your future place look like? And that could even be a rental. Like, if you decide to keep renting, maybe you just don't want to rent in the same place. Like, what does that dream rental look like for you? All right. Okay, so now we get into the 5 things. Number 1 thing to consider before leaving your landlord is your lifestyle. So, questions to ask here are, if you like to be able to pick up and move very quickly. It might be harder to do that with a house, unless maybe you could rent it out to somebody else or do like an Airbnb. Another question is, do you like living in a more expensive area, but you can't afford a home there? So maybe you live, like here in Sacramento, if you live downtown, because there's like shops and restaurants and concerts and just a lot of things happening, it's a cool spot to live. And there are a lot of people that rent down there. But if you want to go and like buy a house, you're going to need some cash. So maybe it's affordable for you to rent there, but you couldn't necessarily buy a house. Same thing with like living on the beach, right? Maybe you can afford a rental by the beach, but like if you're going to buy a beach house, like that's going to cost a little bit more. So thinking about what your lifestyle is and where you want to be. Maybe if you have a pet, like some rentals allow pets, others don't. If yours does, then that's cool. But if it doesn't, then maybe you want to move into your own place because you want to have a pet. Other questions, do you need a parking spot? I know there's a lot of areas in the country that like that's a giant deal. Like you have to pay extra for a parking spot if you're renting. If you have a house, maybe you have a garage and you don't have to pay for that parking spot. And then do you want a yard? Maybe you're living in an apartment and you don't have a yard. Maybe you have a little tiny balcony and you're like, I want an actual yard. Or maybe you don't want a yard because you don't want to maintain a yard. So just thinking about like what your lifestyle is and what you need in a space. Yeah, let's see. I love to travel. So putting my house on Airbnb while I explore the world is important to me. Renting does not allow me to rent out my space. Yeah. Subleasing isn't always available, or like the property owner doesn't want you to do that. So that's a great example. And then also you're still building that equity, right? While you're traveling the world, and you're getting, hopefully that Airbnb is like the rent is covering your mortgage payment potentially. And so like you can then have money, or maybe it's even covering a little bit more. So you can go and explore the world and have a little bit of extra cash to do that. Yeah, that's a great example. All right. So lifestyle. Okay. The second one is timing. So timing is very important. And again, these are very personable to each person's situation and life. So thinking about specifically your contract, because if you're in a rental, then you are either on a lease, maybe a 1-year lease or even a 2-year lease, or you're month to month. So, and if you don't know, usually what happens is it'll go like, if you're on a year lease, it'll go a year. And if you don't renew and put a new lease, then it will automatically be month to month. So that's something also to be aware of. And so considering like, if you are on a 1-year lease and you're only like 2 years into that 1 year, and if you break your lease, you might have to pay a penalty, or you might have to pay all of the remainder of that rent. And so, is that a good idea to break your lease and go find another spot if you have all this extra money that you're going to owe to your property owner? The other thing to think about with timing, and I've had a lot of clients who have been dealing with this recently, is their landlords or property owners have decided that they need to sell the house. And so these people were renting, and their landlord was like, guess what? I need to sell my house. And, some of it were legitimate reasons, like they had to have family come and move back in with them, or just life happens. So my client had like 2 months before they had to find a new spot to live. So in thinking about timing, it's great to look for a house when you're not in a rush and when you have time to look. But in those cases, they had to look quickly because they had to be out of their house. So either they had to find a new place to rent, or they had to find a house to buy. And so in thinking about kind of the pros and cons versus renting and owning, it is that your landlord can be like, guess what? You need to move now. On the flip side of that, if you have a good relationship with your landlord / property owner, one of the things that you might do is have a conversation with them and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. Would you consider selling me this house that I'm living in? Of course, if you like that house, if you want to buy it, you're going to know all about it because you live in it already. And so that's an option. The other thing to keep in mind there is to try to find out how much that house would be worth on the open market, and if you can afford it before you have that conversation, because you don't want to go to your landlord and be like, hi, do you want to sell me your house? And they'll be like, yes, it's this much money. And you're like, oh, I can't pay that much money. But then they have this idea already in their head. And so they decide to sell the house anyways, and then you have to move. So be a little bit cautious about how you navigate that, but it can definitely be an instance where like maybe they're a great landlord and they've been renting you the house for 10 years and they're like, sure, like we would love to see you have this spot. So yeah, I think that's all about. I'm going to take a drink of water real quick. All right. And feel free if you have any more questions or ideas, you can just put them in the chat. Yeah, so that's all about timing. The third one is, who are you going to call if the toilet is running or overflowing or the power goes out or something is happening to your house? Because when you're renting, hopefully you have a property manager or a handy person who you can call and say, hey, come fix this problem. And hopefully they come like quickly and they fix your problem for you. I know that's not the case for a lot of people who are renting, unfortunately, but if it is for you, and then you move to a house that you own, then it's going to be your turn to find out how to solve these problems. And so if the power goes out or the toilet overflows, you're going to be the one that gets to fix it. And so that means you either have to learn how to fix it yourself, or you have to call somebody and have them come in and fix it. And so I have here on the slide, Mercury Stardust, who is a really amazing, handy person. And they share a lot with renters on how to do home repair when you're renting. And this is their new book that's coming out. But also like, they're a really great resource for when you own a home too, because they share tips on how to fix things very easily. And so you can have books like this, mentors like this that can help you. You can watch YouTube videos, but make sure you watch like maybe 5 or 6 of them to make sure that you get a good idea of what's happening and not just like somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing telling you what to do. And then also, when you buy your house, you're going to have a real estate professional help you out, and they likely have a list of a lot of people who can help with like roof repair or HVAC repair. So you can always reach out to them and ask them if they have a recommendation of someone they trust. But it's definitely something to think about, because if you're used to calling and having someone else deal with it all the time, and now you can't do that. You have to take care of it yourself somehow. And it could also cost extra money, which we'll get into on the next slide. But it's thinking about, the time and the funds that is going to take to maintain your house. And I'm going to put this link to Mercury Stardust in the chat because they're amazing. Let's see. And very helpful. Okay. I know myself being a homeowner, sometimes I wish I could just call somebody else and be like, somebody else take care of this. But also I know how proud I feel when I look up how to do something and I am able to fix it on my own. And especially being a real estate agent, I make sure that my clients know where like the water shut off is in their house, or the electrical panel power shut off, just because when an emergency happens, you want to know how to do kind of those basic things. Yeah. And also as a renter, it's important to know where those things are. So if you don't know where those things are, definitely look it up and find out so that you can turn the water off if the valve comes out in the shower and starts splashing all over you. You can turn the water off and not have your whole house flooded. It's a good idea. Okay. That actually happened to me when I was showing a house last week. And I was very grateful that I was able to find the water shut off because I didn't know this was like not my listing. It was another house. And we always test all the water when we're looking at houses. We like turn on the faucet and we turn on the shower, and the shower knob like was broken. So we turned it on and the water was like gushing out. So I turned off the water outside at the emergency shut off and called the agent and said, you need to call somebody to take care of this. All right. So next up, number 4, what will it cost you? So when you're renting and you have a maintenance problem like that, usually your property owner will have to cover the cost of whatever the repair is, and even the replacement. Like say your HVAC system went out, your heating and cooling, then they would cover the replacement of that. You wouldn't have to do that. But when you're owning, that's going to fall on you to either fix or replace. Also, there are other costs associated with owning a house. So right now, when you're renting, you might have to pay, you might not have to pay for water, sewer, and garbage. And maybe not even like electricity, but usually electricity is covered by the renter. So, so there's extra costs that you have to consider when you're buying a house, because those will be added to your bill every month, and you will need to pay them. There's also extra costs when you're looking at buying a house. So when you're in the buy a house process, you're going to want to inspect that house. And so those are going to be inspection costs that you're going to pay for to make sure that when you buy the house and you move in, the roof isn't going to leak right away, or the HVAC system isn't going to go out when it's 108 degrees outside. And so those are some costs to consider. And then also down payment. So when you moved into your apartment, you probably put down a deposit. It was probably the same amount as the first month's rent. Maybe you had a pet deposit too. And so hopefully when you move out, you'll get that deposit back. And so another recommendation I have is kind of like looking to make sure that you're keeping your apartment in great shape so that when you move, you can get that deposit back. And then when you go to buy a house, you'll have to put down a down payment. And so your down payment will go towards purchasing your house. So does anybody want to share what they think the down payment amount that you need to put down is on a house? 20%. Yeah, that's a good guess. Okay. Anyone else? Let's see. 10%. Okay. Okay. So 5%. Okay, so here in California, at least, the down payment can be as little as 3.5%. And that is to get a special government assistance loan. And so a lot of people think it's 20%. That's a really big myth, is that you have to save and save and save until you have 20%, but it's actually 3.5% here in California. Or you can put down 5% or 10%, or if you want to put 20%, you can put that down as well. So, yeah, I just like to dispel that myth, so that you don't have to save as much if you don't want to. All right. So the 5th thing that we're going to talk about is what the market, what is the market actually doing? And so all of the things we talked about before are kind of things that are in your control, things that you can take care of yourself. The thing you cannot control at all, you might think you can, but we cannot control the market, is what the market is doing. And so things like if it's summertime, like right now, here in California, the hottest time to sell a house is usually in July. And so we've seen that. We've seen that like people move in July, the house sale graph goes up and then it goes down in the fall. And then thinking about if it's a buyer's market or if it's a seller's market. And so that means like if it's a buyer's market, then there are a lot of homes on the market and you can kind of pick whichever one you want and you can offer a low ball offer. If it's a seller's market, which is what it is now, there are not a lot of homes on the market and the sellers have a lot of control over how much they sell their house for because of the competition. And so just having an idea of what the market is doing in your area, again, is really important because even across the country, it really varies. And even across California, it really varies by city and neighborhood in how much the market changes and fluctuates throughout the year. So what's really happening in the market, and I'll share a really quick story, is that when I bought my house in 2008, it was 2008, right before the crash. And so I bought my house and then everything crashed. And I was I think I wasn't really aware of how bad the situation was, but I was comfortable with my mortgage and I was comfortable in my house. And so I was like, I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to pay what I said I was going to pay. And hopefully it'll change in the future. And it definitely has. It's like doubled now. And so I had to wait all that time, but it was because I was comfortable and I was able to stay where I was, thankfully. So it really depends on like the right time for you. Okay, so in Sacramento, this is a chart of the weekly median sales price in Sacramento. And the black line is this line right here. And this is 2023. And you can see here that we kind of had the peak right here in June. And now we're kind of going down. And the gray line up here is 2022. And you can see that peak was here in June as well. And you can see they're pretty close to each other. It's like just under 615 and 645. So it's like very close to each other. But you can see every year there's kind of a peak and then it goes down for the rest of the year. It kind of like evens out or goes down. And this chart is talking about new listings. And so I mentioned in a seller's market, there aren't a lot of listings on the market. There's not a lot of homes that people can buy, although there are a lot of buyers. And so this year we have had 6,000 fewer listings than last year. And so you can see here the bar chart. We just don't have a lot of listings at all for any month. Like but February is really different here, this yellow, very small. And then April is like tiny compared to these ones. And then May is like, there's none. June is there's just none. So because we don't have a lot of homes on the market, but we still have a lot of buyers looking to buy homes, it makes it very competitive. And so these stats are from the Sacramento Appraisal blog, which is an appraiser here in Sacramento who like digs into these stats, and it's really fun to see. And so I recommend wherever you are finding someone like that can give you this information about your specific area that you want to live in so that you can really look at the numbers, because the news kind of tries to scare us a lot. And you can find articles that say housing prices are great, and you can find articles that say housing prices are horrible. And it's really looking at the numbers to see what is actually happening. And so here in Sacramento, at least 11,000 sellers have listed their homes in 2023. But again, that's 6,000 fewer than last year. Okay, so now talking about next steps to continue your path to home ownership. So I recommend for you to review the 5 things that we talked about and really sit down with them and think about how each of them apply to your life and what is more important to you. and just kind of going through each of them. The 5 things that we talked about are your lifestyle, the timing, what you'll do if the toilet is running, what it's going to cost you, and what the market is doing. And so review those things, sit with them, and decide really, like, maybe you could even, I like to make lists. So you can make like a pro-con list in each one, or you can make like a rent versus own list and like see which list is longer or which list feels better to you. And then again, getting clear on what is right for you at this moment. So doing a little bit more investigating and homework on what the areas like where you are, looking into those stats, reviewing where you want to be right now, maybe thinking about a year from now or 3 years from now, and to really decide if you should keep renting and keep paying your landlord, or if you really want to break free and go off on your own. And then working towards that goal. So whether you decide to rent and maybe you want to just find a better spot to rent or a different place to rent, or if you want to own a home, and what does that goal look like and how do you need to get there? Some things you can do are, another really interesting thing you can do is look at the numbers in terms of what your rental payment is and what your mortgage would be. And so when I was buying a house, I had a rent payment, and then I knew what my mortgage payment was going to be. And so there was a difference there. Let's say my rent, these aren't actual numbers because I don't remember them, but let's say my rent payment was $1,000 and the mortgage payment was $2,000. So every month as I was preparing to buy a house, I would pay my rent for $1,000, and that extra $1,000 I would put into a savings account so that I could feel myself paying that mortgage. And I could see if it felt right to me. Like if it felt like I was still able to do the things I wanted to do, if I still had money to buy food and take care of my other bills that I had, just as like a test to see if you will be comfortable as a homeowner. And then also you're saving at the same time while you're doing that. So that can be fun. And if you need to figure out what your mortgage cost will be, there are calculators you can use, mortgage calculators. You can go online and you can find those, and you can put in like what you want your monthly payment to be and what the interest rate is. Right now it is 6.5%, 7%. And then you can find out what that monthly payment will be and compare it to your current rent. And I will also say, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but your mortgage stays stable over time, whereas your rent will continue to go up. And so I have a lot of clients who are like, my rent is amazing. My property owner gave me a really great deal and my rent is like so low. And I'm like, that's amazing. I love that. But also, like, what happens when your landlord wants to sell the house and like then you don't have any time to plan? And so it's weighing those things, right? And maybe you're taking the time to plan, you're taking the time to save since your rent is so low, and just be prepared, because when you're renting, it can be more unpredictable than when you own a house. The other thing is you can always refinance too. In America, which is actually different than a lot of countries in Europe, you can refinance your loan. And so if you get a loan at 6.5% or 7%, and it goes down to like maybe 6% or 5.5%, you can refinance, and then your payment will go down. Yeah, you can refinance in Canada. Yeah. I know like in Europe, there are some places they said they can't. And I was like, well, again, as long as you are comfortable with the mortgage payment, it's great. Refinancing can be like a bonus for you to lower your payment if you need to in the future. Yeah. So I want to hear what has been the most interesting or helpful to you today. I know we talked about a lot and it can feel very overwhelming. But if there's something that stood out to you, I would love to hear what you found helpful, what you're excited about, what you learned. Yeah, learn the steps people can take when thinking about purchasing a home. Yep. Hearing about the 5 things to consider. It was helpful in the sense of creating a plan. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and we didn't talk a lot about credit. I know that was mentioned at the beginning, and so I can jump in. So credit score is really important. And when you're renting, what used to happen is that they wouldn't count that rent payment towards your credit score. And so now there are companies that will actually count you paying rent consistently, and they will put that towards your credit score. And so that's another thing to think about if you're a renter, is to try to make sure your property manager is using one of those companies so that you can be building your credit as you're paying rent. Because otherwise, it's hard. It can be very hard to build your credit up. Was that your other question? Let me see. Let's see. Build my credit, the best way to save for a down payment. Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about saving for a down payment and building credit. I would also say, in terms of building credit, to go to annualcreditreport.com. It's a free site. I'm not sure if they have that one in Canada, but I can look it up. And so what you can do is there are 3 credit bureaus, and every year you can look at each one of them for free. And so like quarterly, you can check one every quarter, a different one, just to look at your credit report and make sure that there aren't any errors on it, because it can be very common that there's somebody else with your same name gets put onto your credit report, and maybe they have a delinquency, they paid something late, or they have a giant amount of debt that's not yours. And so just looking at that report and making sure that it's accurate so that you can build your credit score. The other thing is trying to keep your credit card debt low, so that your debt to income ratio is very low. That can boost your credit score as well. And paying all of your bills on time is also very important. Let's see here. Lenders want a letter from an employer saying the applicant has worked for a minimum of 2 years. If not, they want a co-signer or co-applicant with a 2-year work history from one employer. Yeah, that's in Canada. Here it's 2. I think it's 2 years as well. It can be 1 year maybe, but 2 years is better. Because again, the lender wants to see like consistent history. And so these are the things that since they're big giant companies and they don't know you, like, back in the day, people knew each other and they're just like, yeah, I'll help you out. I know you, they can vouch for you. The big lender doesn't know that. And so they have these parameters that they put on to say like, okay, these are the rules that you have to meet in order for us to give you money. Another reason why we should start more community banks, because then we won't have all of these parameters that don't serve everyone equally. Yeah, community banks. All right, so let's see what else I have on here. How do we keep your journey towards homeownership going? Okay, I'm glad you asked. I have a self-paced course called You Can Become a Homeowner. You can be a homeowner. And it's a self-paced course. And so if you want to find out more, I know we talked a little bit before about doing your research and really exploring your options, sitting with these questions and determining what's the best for you. But if you want to do a deep dive into like, what does it mean to actually go out and look for a house, put in an offer, get your keys, Now you're a homeowner. What does that mean? I have a self-paced course, and who is it for? It's for everyone who's here today, everyone who can visualize being a homeowner, especially people who have been excluded from homeownership for a very long time. I really want people who have been left out to be able to become homeowners so that we can start flipping the world upside down, but in a good way. Okay. Oh, another testimonial from one of my clients, Veronica. Rose convinced me buying a house was possible. Rose helped me find a better house than I could have imagined for myself. She worked with me patiently and enthusiastically, explaining each step of the process along the way. Her love of Sacramento and helping her clients make it their home shines through every step. Okay. Why should you sign up for my self-paced course? Because you want to become a homeowner, you want to buy a house, you're done weeding, you are ready to take some action, and also you're ready to join a community, because as part of this course, you get to join my community of first-time homebuyers. And it's going to be women, and mainly single women, who never thought they could buy a house before. And so we're going to be in there cheering you on, answering questions you have, and then hopefully celebrating with you once you get your keys. I know for a lot of my clients, and for me as well, I didn't want to tell anyone when I was buying a house. I wanted, it was like a secret, because I didn't know if it would actually happen. And so I was like, it was like a secret. And so if you want a community where your family doesn't need to know, or your friends don't need to know, but you can ask questions and you can share, this community is a spot where you can do that. And I will also be sharing behind the scenes from my job there, so you can ask a realtor, what is real estate really like behind the scenes? And another testimonial. Okay. This is my client. She says, Rose really took her time with us and checked in frequently to make sure we were getting what we wanted out of the course. It felt tailored to our small group, and we got what we were looking for. You can too. That's Sarah. And so the course is short, 10 to 30-minute videos that you can listen to or watch. They have step-by-step info to prevent feeling overwhelmed, and you can watch the videos whenever you want. You can watch them at your own pace. You can rewatch them. And then also the online community that I just shared, where you can ask questions and meet other future homeowners. And the course has tips for how to buy without having a bunch of money in the bank, because I know that's a giant obstacle for a lot of people. And then tips on how to create your perfect teen future home, because when you want to make sure you have people on your side that are going to be sticking up for you and looking out for your best interest. And then also some mindset shifting, because going from renter to homeowner is a little bit of shifting the way we think about things. And I have Maureen here sharing. She's amazing. I think she really cares about ensuring marginalized people have access to knowledge about housing. Plus, she's an advocate to our houseless communities, which is important. So my course is $88, and there'll be a link in the chat where you can join. Yeah, I would love to have you join, be part of this community, get all the info and stats from the videos. And the question is, when will you leave your landlord and get your own keys? And these are some of my really amazing clients. And then I have even more really amazing clients. So I just really like to show my clients, because I think the hardest part for a lot of people is to visualize themselves as homeowners. And so like, I'd just like to say, like, you can do it too. Like all of my clients have done it. I did it. You can do it too. So thank you for joining. And I hope you learned something. And I appreciate you taking the time today. And our next class, my free classes are held monthly. And so our next one will actually be, let's see. There are the third Thursday of the month, right? I think 1, 2, 3. So that would be August 17th at 5 p.m. So if you know anybody that is thinking about becoming a homeowner or has questions, there's always a question and answer period. And each month will be a different topic. And then I also send out the videos afterwards. So if you want to be on team replay, and you can catch the older videos on YouTube as well. So thanks. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer them. Yay. You're welcome. You are welcome. Informative and inspiring. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. There's that link to the course. And yeah, cool. All right, let me figure out how to stop this thing. Oh, wait, here. Oh, there. Now we can see each other. Hello. Right? I think I did that right. Okay. Okay. So thank you.